This is page 4 in your textbook. This is actually part of the formulae section. We're looking at the definitions of the variables for Ohm's law. And you will be using Ohm's law to solve a lot of word problems that are coming up. And in order to do that, you have to understand the 4 elements that are part of the formula that you will need to use for each of the problems. So let me remind you what a variable is. A variable is a letter or a symbol that represents a mathematical object. So in this case, we have 4 variables, and these are all letters. We have P for power, E represents voltage, I represents current, and R represents resistance. And I have given you a definition of each of those elements of electricity and then the units that each of these variables will be measured in. So for example, P stands for power. Power is the rate of transfer of electrical energy within a circuit, and power is measured in watts. E represents voltage. Voltage is the difference of electrical potential between 2 points. Voltage is measured in volts. I stands for current, or the flow of charged particles through a conductor or space. Current is measured in amperes. R stands for resistance. Resistance is the measure of an object's opposition to the flow of electric current, and that's measured in ohms. So each of these 4 variables will relate to the word problems that we're going to solve. And we're going to use the Ohm's wheel to do this. So let's take a look and just get to know or remember how to read your Ohm's wheel. And something weird is going on. Okay, so if you notice the center of the Ohm's wheel, which in your particular piece is actually, you can see it through the cutout. It's this section right here, the center of this circle. You see those 4 variables. Red is power, E is voltage, R is resistance, and I is current. And the colors are completely arbitrary. They're just colors that I picked so that you could see the 4 quadrants of this wheel. And remember the definition of a quadrant. Let me find it and I'll read it to you if I can find it quickly. Basically, it's one of the 4 sections, equal sections of a circle. So the green is our voltage section right here. Sorry, let me get this pointer. This is related to voltage. This is related to resistance. This is related to current. And this is related to power. So depending on which of the variables we're looking for, we will look at one of the quadrants of the circle. For example, if my problem is asking me to find voltage, we will look at this green section of our circle. It will be one of these formulas. If we're looking for resistance, we will be looking at one of these formulas. Current would be one of these 3, and then power would be one of these 3. And your instructor has told me that you will always have access to the Ohm's wheel. So if you know how to read the Ohm's wheel and how to use it, you will always have this tool at your disposal. So that's just an introduction to the variables and the wheel itself, and we'll be using the wheel to do some problems here very soon.